back, and we're going to go from the land of Talisman to the seventh continent. We have Bruno Sautter with us to talk about one of the most fantastic games that have come out in recent years. And we will definitely avoid spoilers. But if you have questions, please type them in and on the Twitch channel, and we will get to them. But I guess my first question is, talk us a little bit about how the origins of the game. How did it? Was it like an original idea, or was the mechanics you sort of came up with? This is cool mechanics. How can we make this something cool for a board game? Where did it start?
Well, back in 2013, Ludovic and I were thinking about what would be our next game. And Kickstarter at that time started to be quite the thing.
Yes.
Because of Zombicide from Cool Mini or Not. The first game to reach $1 million made us think that there might be something to do here.
Yeah.
For the first time, we had the opportunity as a small indie developer to work on something which was bigger than what could be done in classic retail. So we thought, what would be the game of our dreams? And Seventh Continent was the answer. So
Neat.
Basically, what we love exploration games, but we were thinking there was no real exploration game on the market at that time. So Ludovic, the co-designer of the game, came up with this idea of choose your own adventure game books, in which you choose where you go based on numbered chapters. And we told ourselves, why don't we do this in a board game? So how could this work? And then came the idea of numbered cards. And we spent 2 years building this kind of a sandbox where we can imagine. It was the fastest part was to imagine this numbered cards with the map building as you play system. This was the easy part. What was not easy was how it works. How can you play like solo or with other players, splitting a group? How will the game remember what actions you have done? If you have killed someone, how will, or open the chest or open the gate or whatever, how will the game remember you did all that? And we spent 2 years struggling with problems and solving them as we go. And we launched the Kickstarter in 2015. And the game was delivered in 2017, summer 2017. And then we launched the expansion because the game was well appreciated by people.
I think you could say it was well appreciated. Yeah, that's probably putting it mildly.
Yeah. I'm French, so my English is not always as accurate as it should be. And it's funny you mentioned Talisman. That Talisman was just before me and Seventh Continent, because actually when I was a kid, Talisman was one of these games that brought me to board gaming. So it's kind of a continuity.
I think for so many people, they can point to that as either one of the first games they tried that got them into trying other board games outside of, and again, not mocking or knocking Monopoly or Sorry or any of those, but got them outside of those games into the bigger, wider world of hobby games.
Yes, and now it's me playing Talisman with my girls, 8 and 5, so it's kind of a...
That's wonderful.
Yes. Maybe one day I will have forgotten enough from Seventh Continent to play it like with fresh eyes with my daughters. I guess it won't be before 10 or 20 years.
It's tricky playing games without it while you're playing. Like, oh boy, what if only we changed this here and retooled that. It's like, no, just turn all that off and just enjoy the game.
Indeed.
No, because I mean, this has been phenomenal success. So obviously we want to have questions from the group, but I have a couple myself. So what were your influences in terms of like this wonderful setting you created? Obviously Lovecraft, some of the other things, and I won't say too much because again, spoilers, but were those influences you had, like these were favorite genres you loved yourself, or were they ones that like, well, for this game, these are the ones I think will fit best? Or was it like, I don't care if they'll fit best, these are the things I love and I'm going to put them in this game? Well,
both actually. When we think about exploring or exploration game, you think explorers, and the great time of exploration was like early 20th century with these guys going to wild places, not knowing where they will find there. And of course, where, as you said, the influence from Lovecraft for the kind of weird, mysterious, intriguing adventure. And I have the all my role-playing games here, like like the Hallucinated Mountains. I don't know the name in English. So this one was one of our influence, and Jules Verne as well.
Yes.
Because of the steampunk setting and all the universes he's created.
And exploration. I mean, some of the stuff he did, Journey to the Center of the Earth. Yeah.
Indiana Jones, and lots of other pulp movies we've seen, old ones or more recent ones. And so that's it for the most part. We felt we wanted to create a universe that changes from usual settings, and exploration called exploration. So basically, playing, allowing players to play a cursed explorer at the beginning of the 20th century was fun for us.
Actually, that perfectly leads into another question I had: was why curses? Was that just what fit best, or
it allows us to create different scenarios, campaigns, because you come to the continent for a reason, which is basically you need to get rid of this curse you got when you first get there. But then why you got this curse and how do you get rid of it, and what is the curse mechanism in itself, allows us to do lots of things. And for players who have played Seventh Continent, they know that depending on which curse you play, things that will be expected from you will be very different. So for one, you have to find some places. The one will ask you to get prepared before doing something which is really hard. Other curses will take you to the edge of the world, or some required you to survive kind of traps in a deadly temple. And that's only a few of them. I guess we've made at least 10 curses, 10 different curses. I don't even remember how many we have, because there are some hidden curses as well. But people will see when they play the game, which is now available in German. This is something we actually didn't say, but we've just the game is now available in German after a long time, and we are super happy that it has now arrived in Germany. It's officially for sale on our online shop.
Nice.
A week or two.
No, I mean, yeah, and that's obviously a very happy moment for everybody over in Germany. So another question I had was the cooperative nature of it. Was that always, again, something that you went in wanting to make it, anyone from one to more players all working together? Or was it just something you felt was a more fun way to deal with where you were doing with the game itself was going to be hard enough, the players fighting each other was just going to be even more difficult for everybody?
Well, both actually. From a thematic point of view, doing things together was quite logical, because when you explore, it's hard to have people who work with not and don't share the same objective or point of interest. So it was thematically logical that people struggle together, although they can split during the exploration and regroup when they need to. And from a game design point of view, it was quite complicated to oppose players, to make them compete with each other, because it's a kind of game where you could in that case easily make life impossible to other players. Or what happens when you meet, or when you split, or it's much more complicated in terms of game design. We need to keep this. We considered at one point working in that direction, and we didn't find something that was appealing enough and working fine enough, so we just decided not to move onward with this idea. But we designed like a traitor mode in the expansion, which allows you don't know who might be the traitor, and each character might have a secret agenda that usually implies to kill another member of the team in order to get rid of his curse. So it's to spice things up, but we use it as like a game variant, not the core gameplay.
Yeah, probably for people who are tired of actually playing together and want to have a little interaction.
Yeah, and also we wanted the game to work well as solo game, because this is a kind of experience it's time consuming. I mean, you play for hours and hours and you don't necessarily have the time to play always with someone else. So we wanted the game to work as well solo as well as with other players. And this is a real solo game. It's not a game in which you have a solo mode. It's kind of built for solo or 2-player experience. It works with 3 and 4, but for us, the best way to play it is 2 players, which is the best, 2 or 3 players.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask what you thought the best modes or best player numbers were. So like 1 to 2.
2 or 3, yeah. 1
Yeah.
to 3, I would say.
Yeah,
4 is
yeah.
more, depends on who you play with, but there is more downtime, so.
Yeah, yeah. That's always a tricky thing with any cooperative game. It's who you're playing with sometimes is more determined than the game itself, if you'll have a good time. And that kind of leads me to something else you touched on earlier, which was the save mode, which is brilliant. I mean, this is a game that will take a while to play, and you can't just set everything up laying on the table and hope that it will still be there. The cat doesn't jump on the table, which has happened to our first game of Starfleet Battles long ago. And just everything goes kerflooey, but this is a nice mechanical save mode, like it says on the website. It's very much like a video game save. Was that something that going in you wanted to make part of the game, or you realized as you were playing that this game takes a while? There's going to be a way for us to save the game and pick up in a proper way.
Well, we needed a save system, obviously, because you cannot leave the game, as you said, for weeks and weeks on your diner table. And from that point, us as gamers, we are passionate gamers. We've been playing all our lives, and we do not like spending too much time putting the game in place, like those games where you spend 30 minutes setting up the game and then you're there for 45 minutes. This kind of thing that bothers us as players. So we wanted a game in which you could start playing almost immediately. You put a card, you put your token, your character figure on it, and then you're good to go, basically. And the same goes for a save system. We wanted something that allows you to get rid of everything that's on the table in 30 seconds. Then you have some manipulation between 2 game sessions, but then this is a moment where you have time to do it. So you basically return cards from the past into the game box where they are stored. And then loading the game is also as easy as setting up the game. This is something that we always try to work on. We spend a lot of time making sure people don't have to organize everything on the table before they can actually enjoy playing the game.
Yeah, it is funny because as gamers, we're willing to play for hours and hours and hours, but God forbid we spend more than 5 minutes setting up a game. No.
Yeah.
I want to start immediately.
Yes, if you could avoid rule book as well, it would be perfect. I mean, the best games are the ones that offer you a rich gaming experience with not too many rules and not too many setup in which you can just jump in. That's a very strong point with video games. Video games are super well from that perspective. Unfortunately, they do not bring as many gaming experience as board game do. So, and obviously they miss the social aspect of the board game. But
yes,
maybe one day we'll be able to do games that you can learn in 10 minutes, and then they are rich and complex. But that's always tricky. That's the trickiest.
Yeah. I mean, I remember some old classic. Back when they were text-based video games, not really video games, just where learning the rules of the game were part of the game, which was both frustrating and rewarding, but mostly frustrating. So, no, that's cool. And again, one thing I wanted to ask about that we talked earlier that I really do love is the music you have on your website, that you can have some nice background theme music, and actually not just here's music that play whenever, but no, it's themed. If you're in this spot, this is the music you really want to play. That's just wonderful on so many levels. Was that something that was going in? It's like we wanted music, maybe just like as you were playing, you were play testing, you had music in the background, and that was part of the experience you wanted to bring to this game?
Yes, definitely. Barry Doublet, who created this music, worked on us with it. He did a great job. And we cannot thank him enough for what he's achieved. The game is, so it's a big continent to explore. And the continent is basically split into several areas, environments, which are all very typical. So you have, let's say, the swamp, the snowy mountains, and the seaside, etc. So each, basically, we know more or less when player enters an area is going to spend some time there. So we were able to create one track for each of these environments. And each track basically uses a common theme that Barry created. We wanted something appealing that players could remember that, and he declined this theme to match each area. So the darkest areas of the game, the one in which you struggle the more, are more dark. And the other ones, some are more like light, depending on how difficult this area is supposed to be. So when you play the game, you actually feel this, the music gives you this feeling as well. And since it's a narrative game, it works very, very well to have this music being there to remind you that you are surrounded by things. You have the animal making their noises, frogs and birds, and strange when you are in underground places. So it's kind of a, yeah, it's a game as a whole. We try to, we've been playing video games also as board games like a lot, and we like experiences that are like total for the player. When he's in the game, we want him to be in the game, not like on his cell phone and playing one turn.
Yes.
So we try to achieve this with narrative. With the game is some people call it a narrative game, but for us, and compared to other narrative games that are out there, it's not about the end of the journey. It's really about the journey itself and what you do about it. So you might get rid of this curse and win the game, but your best memory won't be when you lift the curse. It's when you fought this bear and you barely survived because you needed food and you are going to die, and then you found this fruit that give you diarrhea, but that's okay because at least you had and get a few cards back. This is all these memories that will make the journey unique for you, and all those lol moments where you something crazy happens, and it's very nice to see. Also, we've hidden a lot of Easter eggs in the game, so there are lots of things that people won't see at first, and then after hours and hours, they might say, "Oh, I did not know this thing," and then they start pulling this string, and they realize, "My God, what's behind this?" Then they find out something like, "Oh my God, it has been there all this time. I've played like 25 hours, and I didn't realize this was in the game box." So that's the kind of people.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of the one thing I think is really cool about, and again, we were talking about Talisman earlier, the winning is nice. I mean, it's better than losing usually, but it's what happened as you got there, the journey, like you said, and the way the game lets you create and go through this wonderful story, where you have input in it, but it's almost like being part of a movie. And again, especially because you don't have a game master here. The game itself is mastering it. Mm-hmm. But having the music in the background and all these other things to keep you immersed in this wonderful story that you're going through makes it so much fun. And again, it adds so much to the atmosphere as you're going through with it. To get these really cool stories. And especially, especially if it's the first time you've listened to the music and something awesome happens at the same time the music hits some sort of awesome beat, and it's like, oh my gosh, who's doing this here? No, I just love it. It's a wonderful bit, and it makes life so much easier, especially when I'm like running a game and I want to have some music in the background. Having something I know is perfect for it is just a really nice touch.
Thank you.
But so one of the questions I wanted to get into was the concept of the deck being your life force, I guess, your will to go on. As you exhaust the deck, you're literally getting exhausted. Was that something that evolved out of playtesting, or was that again something that's like, no, going in, we want to have this part of the way this game works?
From the very beginning, the game was about exploration and survival, because we needed like a timer, something that what we didn't want is players to basically wander around looking at everything and being like tourists on the continent.
Yeah.
we wanted them to struggle and to feel that there was some kind of urge to get to where they were supposed to go based on the clues we give them. And usually people who fail, like especially in the first time they play the game, they tend to lose themselves. Like they act in the game and they wouldn't act the same way in real life because they would focus on their goal and rather than, oh, let's go this way, but the game told you to go north. Yes, but west sounds nice, so let's go west. Things you wouldn't do in real life. And so the survival dimension of the game was something we wanted. And because it brings tension to the adventure. And tension is good when you're a cursed adventurer on a mysterious hostile continent. So the idea of this single deck that gets thinner and thinner as you play, and that once it's empty, you start, it's like roulette russe, like the Russian roulette, was something we wanted from the beginning. And it also allows us to bring other stuff related to this, such as crafting tools or your weapons or things to hunt, making fire, so all the aspect of the wild. Basically, our explorers are not like coming with jeeps and lots of food in their backpack. It's kind of a struggle for life as you go. And it's a mix of exploration and survival. That was the agenda at the very beginning when we start working on this title.
Yeah, I mean, I do, like I said, it adds a lot of tension because it would be very easy to have a different kind of game where you're basically exploring. And it's like, oh, well, over here's this mountains, those are wonderful, and over here's this snow, that's wonderful too. But you're a tourist, you're not really in any kind of there's no real threat to I need to do this and I only have a limited amount of time to do it.
Yeah.
That I think it really kicks in nicely without it actually necessarily being like a stopwatch or anything. It's just literally the more you go and the more you don't watch yourself, the more tired you will get and the harder things will become. And you literally watch that deck get smaller and smaller if you don't manage it properly.
Yeah,
it's a great little mechanic.
Don't Starve, the video game, was released before or after Seventh Continent. But it's funny to see how games of this type influences each other. I mean, we didn't influence Don't Starve, or they didn't necessarily influence us, but ideas come up at the same time with same kind of thematics. Yeah. And Don't Starve basically is this kind of game where you just have not to starve. Seventh Continent has this Don't Starve part in itself.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like you don't see any movies about volcanoes and suddenly there's 3 movies about volcanoes all appearing at the same time where, everyone kind of like gloms onto a neat idea. And maybe it's just now is the right time for that idea to really kick off. But it's also cool just seeing how the cool idea, different people use it in different ways. But I really do like it. And again, it's also just a fun visual. I mean, I would love for somebody, and maybe somebody already has, take that little deck and put it on a scale or something that just sort of like shows like it's getting less and less weighty and you're getting more and more towards die as you went down until the timers went off or something. But it's a wonderful just visual representation rather than just like little hit points or something. Just that deck gets thinner and things are getting bad.
At least you see when you're going bad. I mean,
it's very visual. Yes, you can look down and like, oh yeah, that deck was 2 inches tall when I started. It's no longer that tall. So one other question, and we'll see if we get any more from the audience. But the game is known obviously for it takes a while to play. What's the shortest game of the sort of the initial? I won't say like the beginner level, but basically the recommended first curse to go through. What's the shortest game you've heard of somebody playing through?
Well, we created, after this game was released, we kind of did things like not in the correct order, because we released the Crystal Song Small Curse. It allows you to get familiar with the game mechanism. This one is played in like an hour, so it allows you really to get started and not spoil the game and learn how to play with this very small experience. Apart from that, I think people, from what I've heard, the shortest was 7 hours in Voracious Goddess, which is a recommended first curse.
Yeah.
The funny thing is some people actually never manage to get rid of this curse. I've heard people and others are like they just worked on the game and they did eight curses like they succeeded in the first one each time.
Wow.
Yeah, because they got it. I mean, they understood the idea of optimizing and following the clues and crafting when you need to craft and hunting properly, etc. So it's very difficult to gauge how people will make it out with this game. It is hard because we like hard.
Yeah, no, but it's rewarding hard. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not banging your head against a wall hard.
It's like these video games where you struggle at first and you say I'm never going to pass level 1 and then various Dark Souls stuff like that. So it's kind of hard. It can be quite demanding, but if you play it like you would play in real life, like you play it like tight, and you don't waste too much cards by overdrawing cards when you perform actions. You need to play like you need to be always on the edge. Consider that it's not because your action deck is now 50 cards that it will remain like this forever. But yes, that's what we wanted to bring to Seventh Continent.
No, and I think you did a fantastic job. It's definitely, well, I'm sure you've heard lots of words about how wonderful it is, but I'll just say, yeah, it's a wonderful game. And it's, yeah, I think it's rightly sort of created like its own thing that is, it's really hard to see anybody see anything else like it that's just captured it so perfectly. So thanks again. This has been great.
Thank you. The game is also about ourselves, because lots of both our influences and private jokes and I don't know if it's because we are French and we like to use small tricks but this is something that we really put ourselves in the game. So
I think
nobody else could have made this game, not because we are smarter than other people, but just because it's so personal. And it's so because you find our humor in it, or we like to do tricks and our cultural references makes it special in its way.
Yeah, no, I think you can definitely tell that it's not a mass-produced, a corporate kind of thing. It's a very personal, and there's a lot of just fun in it. Yeah. But again, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I appreciate it because I know it's very late out there. And hopefully we will have you on again. This has been great.
Thank you very much.